I call to order the December 2021 legislative session of the Media Borough Council. Please join me in standing and saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening to all who have joined us, some in person, presumably some who are not with us in person, but with us nonetheless. First of all, a quick apology. We are starting a little bit late this evening. That is due to the holding of of executive session before the start of tonight's meeting. We discussed a personnel matter as well as a litigation matter involving property on 3rd and West Streets. Before we begin, as always, a strong encouragement that if you have not yet been vaccinated, please get yourself vaccinated. If you haven't gotten your booster shot, please get your booster shot. It's a little bit tight these days to get an appointment, so the earlier you make that appointment, the better your chances are to get yourself fully vaccinated and help us all corral this virus that has been plaguing us for the past nearly 2 years. And lastly, here we are in the holiday season, and of course, if you are fortunate enough to have some extra dollars to buy some gifts or to go out to eat or pick something up to eat, make sure you think first about doing that locally. All right. Let's begin. We have a couple of housekeeping matters. We have 2 sets of meeting minutes, one for our workshop meeting of this past month and the other for our legislative meeting of this past month. Do I hear a motion to approve the workshop meeting minutes for November 2021 as submitted?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the November 2021 workshop meeting minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. The second set of meeting minutes is for our legislative meeting for the past month. Do I hear a motion to approve those as submitted?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no call for discussion, all in favor of approving the legislative meeting minutes for this past month, November 2021, as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Before we move along to public comment and privilege of the floor, that's the first of 2 opportunities that we have at our meetings for members of the public to address us with any questions or concerns they may have. Before we do that, tonight I'm going to ask for a vote or a motion. Actually, I'll make the motion. If I do that, will you name me? I'll ask for a motion to amend our agenda to include a motion under Sarah Dixon's report to change the employment status of our grants administrator, Karen Tausig-Lux, from part-time to full-time. So that's a call for a motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
I would just point out that this new law requires me to state a reason that the agenda is being amended, and I would suggest that that reason is because we needed to hold an executive session prior to knowing whether you need a vote, and that could not happen until tonight.
That is correct. I will adopt that explanation. That is so. As I mentioned earlier, we held executive session before tonight's meeting, and we discussed a personnel matter. That personnel matter was indeed a discussion about changing the employment status of Ms. Tausig-Lux from part-time to full-time. So I'll incorporate that in the motion.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor of amending the agenda to include the motion to change employment status for Karen Tausig-Lux from part-time to full-time, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
The motion passes 6-0.
All right, so we'll dive into that motion at the end of our agenda, as I said, during the Councilwoman Dixon's report. So we have public comment and privilege of the floor. There are two ways for members, for our residents, members of our community to participate. One is by email, and the email address is comments@mediaborough.com. If you choose to leave a comment, please remember to leave your name as well as your address. If you fail to do so, we will not read your comment because it fails to comply with requirements of state law. Karen, have we received any email requests for comment or question?
No, at this time.
All right, thank you. Then now is the opportunity for those who are present to come to the microphone, and if they wish, tell us who they are, where they live, and what's on their mind.
Robin Masterson, 342 West 4th Street. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our outgoing council members, Lisa Johnson, Amy Johnson, and Sarah Dixon, and to say thank you for your service. I know that it's not an easy thing to essentially volunteer your time and to shoulder some of those burdens. And I know this is your last meeting, and I imagine you're feeling happy and relieved, and I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you.
Thank you. You anticipated something that we would acknowledge at the end of the meeting. We have things that look like they're iPads, but they're not iPads. Sorry, folks. You're not getting iPads. You're getting something far more valuable. And those will be revealed at the end of the reports. Is anybody else who wishes to address council at this time? Please come forward. Tell us who you are, where you live, what's on your mind. Okay, we'll move along then. We have, as always, the Borough Manager's Report. Ms. Foreman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few items to report this evening. First, I just wanted to mention about the holiday schedule. The office will be closed on Friday, December 24th. We're actually beginning the office, we're closing around noon. And then the offices will be closed on Monday, the 27th, and Friday, December 31st. And I hope I'm not jumping ahead of Councilor Robinson's.
Go ahead while you're going.
Okay, just for the sanitation schedule for our residents, there will be no trash pickup on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. There is no change to recycling whatsoever. And all that information is on our website and in multiple places. Also, I just wanted to remind council about the holiday social, which will be Tuesday evening at Iron Hill. And the invites are in with the details of the timing and everything like that. So we'd love to see you there. And I'm excited to share that the Borough was recently awarded 3 grants. And the first is $10,000 from the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission to help our archives scan and digitize the collection of the Delaware County Institute of Science. So that was really exciting. The second one is $57,000 from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, and that's to hire a consultant to help our police department go through the accreditation process. And then third, we were awarded $500,000 through a RACB grant to rehabilitate Plum Street Mall into a downtown park with plantings and ADA accessible seating and stormwater features. And certainly want to thank Representatives Chris Quinn and Senator Carney for their advocacy efforts with the governor's office to help us get that grant. And finally, I would like to acknowledge Mike Green for a job well done, and hopefully just permit me to read the short letter. It says, it's from the Pennsylvania Veterans Museum. Dear Brittany, I want to take this opportunity to compliment one of media's best employees, Mike Green. Mike has always been a great help to the Pennsylvania Veterans Museum, especially during repairs to the Armory building. He has stayed on top of the water damage from day one and followed up on any issues we've had that occurred in the museum during heavy rain events. With his help and determination, it was a job well done. He goes above and beyond our expectation and is professional in every sense of the word. We want to take this opportunity to let you know how highly we think of Mike and his crew and what an asset he is to the Borough of Media. Warmest regards, Ed Buxton. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Does anyone on council have any questions for our manager at this time? At the risk of stepping on Paul's stage, Paul, were you going to speak to the lead collection?
Go ahead.
Okay. Brittany, I have heard, I'm sure that you have heard, because we have discussed, that there's some talk about leaf collection and how it seems to be a little bit delayed this year. And as always, there is a reasonable explanation for what is going on, part of which is that leaves are just falling later this year because of the changing weather patterns. But as a more practical explanation, what's going on?
Yes, so we actually have 3 leaf machines, and the first week of leaf pickup, 2 of them were down. And they're notoriously finicky machines, and so we just got a little bit behind in our schedule, but you will notice that this current week, Public Works team has been out there working hard to pick up the leaves, even though it's a little bit past our original schedule. So if you haven't gotten them picked up, I'm pretty sure it has been, they're working hard on that. But if there's anything else still out there, you can always call the borough office and we'll make sure it gets taken care of.
Thank you.
So, yesterday, I get home and they had done my side of the street, which was really amazing. And then today, when I got home, there were leaves.
We can't control that wind.
You do keep falling, unfortunately.
We'll have good talking to our street trees.
Yeah.
But historically, we will continue to pick up leaves as long as we can. I mean, most of the time, we always put out a leaf schedule. 99% of the time, we fall behind the leaf schedule. As Brittany said, something breaks, more leaves come down. Highway will continue to pick up leaves until such time that we will start to use the trucks to plow snow and or when the leaves are just frozen to the ground. So if you have to, put them out. I know that our Public Works crew, even when they're driving around, will notice that, hey, here's a house that put leaves out. They'll send a truck around to get it. So if you're doing it, just put them out there. It may be a couple of days, but we will always come around and pick them up, and we'll continue to pick them up until such time as the trucks start to be used for plowing.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments for our manager? Seeing none, move along then to the engineer's report. Mr. Mattson.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few updates on a couple different projects. Firstly, the paving contractor has completed the 5 streets associated with this year's road program. Those are Radnor, Jasper, Jefferson, Lemon, and Monroe. And I'd like to thank the fire company for helping to coordinate some of the timing to make sure that the installation of both the ADA ramps and the repaving of the street went smoothly. It's just a lot of work and a lot of things to coordinate, so I do want to thank them. I do have an update. A few months back, I reported to council that there was a portion of our wayfinding project. There's a portion of our wayfinding project that was sort of a tack-on from a grant that we had won that had to do with stamped asphalt on Borough Pike. And lo and behold, the contractor had come back and requested a $400,000 change order because there were some issues with the existing pavement out of Borough Pike. So, as frustrating as that would be, it would have been more than the cost associated with the original stamped asphalt. Early last month, we petitioned PennDOT to repave Borough Pike, which would completely absorb and get rid of that cost. PennDOT has agreed to do that. So it's wonderful. Yes, it's great news. So Baltimore Pike will be repaved from Providence Road all the way down to Brook Street, far into town.
When?
In 2022. Yes, it's great news.
Played your cards well, Mr. Ray.
Well, I'm very, very thankful. It was a coordination of a lot of different people, but it took a little bit of convincing, but they have agreed to move forward with it. So I'm very, very thankful, and would like to express also my gratitude to our friends at PennDOT and our borough staff who were instrumental in making this happen. So it's great news. So we can bring back that portion. If the borough chooses to move forward with the stamped asphalt, the supplier of the vendor will be able to do that work, which is great.
Okay.
That's great news. I did want to provide a report on 810 North Olive Street. The paving contractor will be reapplying the top coat to the driveway that was out there. There was one piece of unfinished business. I was disappointed that it was supposed to happen today, but there was the paving again on Jasper and Radnor, so it won't happen until tomorrow. I've been in touch with the resident who was affected by that. And then secondly, I did meet with Garjul, who has completed his work in Yaden and is mobilizing equipment. He wanted to meet today to talk about where he can put equipment. And I said, you have a whole swath of cartway out there between Olive Street and 8th Street, so just feel free to bring it in and let's start rolling here. So, good news, Mr. Garjul will be mobilizing most likely tomorrow and then into next week. So I was upset that he had so many delays, but the sewers that he was remediating down in Borough were very, very deep, and he had some unforeseen delays. But good news on all those fronts. Unless there's any other questions, that's all I have.
Any member of council have any questions for our engineer? We'll move along then to our solicitor's report. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have anything to report tonight.
Does any member of council have any questions for our solicitor at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along to the mayor's report. Mayor
Just
McMahon.
I started coughing. Let's see. Excuse me for a minute. Yeah, tickle. Is this water?
Irish water.
Okay, all better. Let's see, police department, everyone knows we're down officers. We had 21 tests this past week on December 8th. And some of the tests, those that tested are part-timers, so we're hoping to have the results of that in the next week or so we can get back up to as many officers as we should have. Let's see, on complaints, we had 559 complaints over the last month. I'll just read a couple of them. Medical emergencies, 50. Traffic accidents, 36. Domestic, 10. Assistance to the public, 88. 68, I'm sorry. And I'll just read them now. And we have a special guest here tonight that we're going to have a proclamation for. So Kevin and I are going to go to the microphone. Shan, please meet us at the microphone. Okay, Shan, I'm not going to swear you in. Okay, the proclamation says, whereas Shan Sujan has been a dedicated member of the Media Borough Recreation Board for the last 14 years, and whereas Shan is known as a planner and organizer of many community trips and outings to local sporting events, along with aiding in the scheduling of entertainment for children for holidays and events. Whereas the Recreation Board appreciates all the hard work and dedication and volunteer service that Shan has provided to the residents of Medium, and now therefore be it resolved that Media Borough Council and myself and the board and the Media Board of Recreation recognizes, honors, and congratulates Shan Sujan for his many years of service. So,
well, thank you, Sean. I know it's been, seems like forever. I was on rec when you came on board. And you've been instrumental in doing numerous trips to the Flyers and the Sixers and the Flower Show. And I think it was you responsible for the Winter Wonderland that we just had this past weekend. Plus, Sean was always the unofficial photographer and recorded many events and posted them on the website where we could all see pictures. So we appreciate all you did for rec and all for the borough, and we're happy to honor you tonight.
thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Kevin. It's been a pleasure and a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun with the board. And as Kevin was saying, I was mostly the event person, and we started the discounting of the Flower Show tickets, the Spirit of Philadelphia, the Flyer games, the Union games, and the Winter Wonderland, which has been a lot of fun too. We had to mute it this year because of things, going on. But it's been a wonderful team. We've all worked together, had a lot of fun doing it, and it's my pleasure. It's time to move on, though. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does any member of council have any questions for the mayor at this time? Seeing that there are none, we'll move along then to the to our committee reports, council reports. First, as always, Property, Public Works, and Fire. Councilman Robinson.
Good evening, thank you. Wishing everybody a happy holidays. Enjoy yourself, be safe. That is one of the things the chief asked me to remind everybody. This is the season where we have cut dead trees inside of our homes with electric lights on them. Please make sure your lights are safe. Please make sure you turn your lights off when you're not around. And please make sure you water your tree. The chief also asked me to remind you that they're still and always will be looking for volunteers. If you're interested, please stop down. They'll be glad to sign you up. Legislatively, I have a very important resolution to pass this evening. I usually don't read them, but this one's short and sweet, and I think is one that's definitely for the record book. I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2021-41 regarding the authorizing the disposal of equipment. Whereas the Borough of Media, the Borough, has equipment, one dishwasher, one coffee system, and one floor cleaner located at 301 North Jackson Street, which the Borough wishes to dispose of, are damaged and unsuitable for use. And whereas the Borough, the above described equipment, which the Borough wishes to dispose at this time, which the Borough has determined has a value of less than $100. Now where it is resolved that the Borough manager is hereby authorized to dispose of this equipment by any means. That's a form of a motion.
Second.
Motion's been made, motion has been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 2021-41 with regard to disposing of non-working kitchen equipment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
That concludes my report.
Are there any questions for Councilman Robinson at this time from members of council? Seeing that there are none, we'll move along then to Councilwoman Lisa Johnson, MBA Historic Public Safety and Civil Service.
Thank you. I have one item for consideration. It is a motion to authorize the solicitor to draft an annual traffic/parking ordinance amendments. This is a housekeeping item we do every year.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Motion's been made, it has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no call for discussion, all those in favor of authorizing the solicitor to draft the annual traffic parking ordinance amendments, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
That's all I have.
Any member of council have any questions or comments for Councilwoman Lisa Johnson at this time? Seeing none, we'll move along then to Vice President Amy Johnson, Fair Trade Farmers Market, Shade Tree, and the Environmental Advisory Council.
Thank you. Just a few announcements. In an effort to build a larger tree canopy throughout the borough, the Shade Tree Commission handed out 30 red oak tree saplings with planting instructions last Sunday at the farmers market to borough residents to plant on their own properties. So this was a great opportunity to chat with community members about the Shade Tree Commission and the importance of planting oaks. Even though we will all be long gone by the time these oaks are large enough to create shade, we stress the importance of planting them for the next generation. So, yeah, just wanted to make that announcement. And also, the farmers market last week was the most attended market with numbers close to 800 shoppers. The vendor list is growing with over 16 vendors that line both sides of Edgemont Street. So in handing out the oak tree saplings, it became clear that not only do many borough residents shop the market, but also many folks from outside the borough, which brings a lot of foot traffic to our town and our business district. Especially farmers markets most farmers markets, even in the surrounding area like Swarthmore, close for the winter. So because our market is year-round. We attract folks from surrounding communities even in the winter months. So as we enter into the 13th season of our farmers market, I think it has proven to be a wonderful asset to our town. And just a reminder to folks that the farmers market is now in its winter season. It's open the first and third Sundays of the month through April from 10 to noon, and then in May the market will return to being weekly. So it takes place on Edgemont Street between Front and State Streets. So make sure to stop at the last market of 2021, which will be this Sunday. And well, after 8 years, I guess that concludes my final Borough Council report.
Thank you. Does any member of council have any questions or comments for Vice President Amy Johnson at this time? Hearing none, and there will be opportunity to say a few words at the end of the reports tonight. We come to my portion of the agenda, Community Development, Historic Architecture Review Board, and non-media Arts Council. That is my oversight. We no longer have a liaison to the Arts Council. But I do have a few action items. First, though, an announcement. There continue to be some openings on the Planning Commission as well as on the Zoning Hearing Board, I think that is so, yes. So if you're interested in serving on either of those two bodies, you have an opportunity to do so. Please submit a letter of interest to our manager, Brittany Foreman. You will find her contact information readily on the website. And the letter of interest doesn't need to be anything more than a single paragraph saying you're interested in, and here's why, and here's your background. So it's not a formidable process if you wish to be considered. Do have several action items. The first involves a zoning hearing board application for variances at 405 West Pearl Street. Pearl Street is not well known to even our residents. Is something of a cul-de-sac that comes off of Lemon Street in between State and Front Streets. So if you are walking north on Lemon Street, past State Street, but before you got to Front Street, on your left-hand side, there is the old schoolhouse, and there is a small street which is called Pearl Street. This property is located on Pearl Street. It's on the north side of Pearl Street. It appears to have been carved off over 100 years ago from property on Front Street. So part of the backyard of that property was deeded over and a new property was created. On the property right now is a quaint, small, two-story house. It looks like a bit of a cottage. It's in significant disrepair. The owner of the property, who lives in Media, actually lives just within the block, would like to replace the existing structure with a new structure. Let me tell you about the challenges that she faces. The property is in R3. That's a residential 3. In R3, the minimum lot size is 4,000 square feet. This property is 1,000 square feet. In R3, the minimum lot width is 40 feet. This property is 20 feet wide. As a result, and a lot of this makes sense. This is a very typical property in the sense that it doesn't comply with our zoning code. It was built before our zoning code came into being. The existing structure is non-compliant in every which way possible. The front porch is actually within our right-of-way. The side yards fill the entire lot and in fact encroach into the two adjoining lots. In other words, the house kind of flops over into the properties next to it. Because it's such a small property, the amount of building coverage exceeds the maximum amount that's permitted. What the property owner would like to do is replace the existing structure with a new structure that will set back from the right-of-way, that will be within the property, the side yards, but nonetheless, it will not comply with our front yard setback, our side yard setback, or our rear yard setback. And in order for them to build a structure that would meet our code, it would need to be, I calculated this, 2 feet wide by, I think it was 20 feet long. That's what they're permitted to build on that property in order to meet the dimensional requirements. Clearly, they have some hardships that are not of their own creation. They would like to, if they have permission to rebuild the existing structure as is, they could do that. It's a pre-existing non-compliant structure. But what they're proposing will actually pull it back from the street, pull it in from the sides, push it back a little bit, but actually will decrease the amount of building coverage on the property. So it will not comply with the specifics of the zoning code, but it will be a better fit for the property than what is there at present. As I said at the top, this is a variance request, so we do not make a decision as to whether or not a variance, or whether or not the applicant meets the test for variance. That's something that the zoning hearing board does. Planning commission, of course, they are the first stop, official stop, on an application such as this, and they heard what the applicant had to say, and their recommendation to this council was a 6-0 vote, a unanimous vote, that we not oppose the requested variances. I agree, but if there is somebody here on council who disagrees and would like to make a motion to send our solicitor to oppose the variance request, now is the time to do so.
Brian, I just have a couple of questions, because this workshop, we weren't provided the opportunity to do so. Are there any, in our zoning code, are there any opportunities to continue to use the property without having it to be completely destroyed that would meet the requirements of our code?
2 feet by 25 feet wide.
No.
That's what
If
they
I'm
do.
not mistaken, in our code, it references if you're a non-conforming property, and you maintain, and I don't have it memorized anymore, a portion of the building that you can continue to use a non-conformity and use the non-conformity setbacks. There's an existing example right now going on within the borough, so that would be, an option. The other question, which I did want to ask the other night, but wasn't given the opportunity, was the property owner. Do you know when they purchased the property?
I do not.
Was it prior to 1996? Do you know?
I do not.
Okay. So that was, just was curious if they were aware of what they were purchasing when they purchased it.
So I guess to address your concern, yes, as I said before, they've received advice from Jim Jeffrey, our Chief Code Enforcement Officer, that if they wish to rebuild what is there precisely, they may do so. They don't wish to do so. If they were to rebuild what they have, it would still encroach on neighbors' yards. It would still be partway in the right-of-way. It would have a greater building coverage than what is being proposed. What is being proposed reduces those impacts. So it is a good thing for the borough that it's reducing those impacts.
Okay. What you said.
Anybody wish to make a motion to send our solicitor I think it'll be January 9th is the next zoning hearing board meeting because they don't meet at the end of this month due to the holidays. Anybody don't mind to make such a motion? Hearing if there are none, there were some suggestions, and this should be communicated to our to Mr. Jeffrey. The Planning Commission would like the applicant to investigate the possibility of additional stormwater control, if that's possible. And the applicant said that they would be interested to do that, but they did not have any specifics at the time of the Planning Commission meeting. Second action item I have concerns acceptance of a RACP grant. We've had a little bit of discussion about that towards the beginning of this meeting. Our manager mentioned that the borough was fortunate enough to receive 3 grants over this past month, one of which was a RACP grant award of $500,000 with regard to the Plum Street Park. RACP is the let's say I wrote it down because no one remembers this, least of all me. I thought I wrote it down.
Redevelopment assistance,
Capital program, I think it is. So it's usually a good thing when we receive grant money towards a project that we've been looking at for quite some time. Let me tell you a little bit about this project. Plum Street Park is actually a 3-block stretch of Plum Street. It runs from Baker Street up to Front Street. So you can think of it as 3 different segments. The middle segment is what we're talking about, the one from State Street to Jasper Street. I'll give you a little bit of history. So several years ago, there's a stakeholder group that held a series of meetings to plan a creative place-making project. The group identified several basic needs that were not being met in our downtown space, one of which was more public gathering spaces, another was more green space, and a third was a need for public art. So these are some of the goals that this group envisioned for a revamping of the Plum Street Park. This group envisioned a green central square in the middle of town. Specific elements of the project emerged out of the group discussions as well as public survey responses. The stakeholder group and survey respondents set goals for renovations of the Plum Street Mall. They included redesign to facilitate pedestrian flow, create a friendly meeting space with thoughtfully placed seating and tables, incorporating nature into the mall by way of trees, additional plantings and trellises, and incorporating stormwater features. The plan incorporates rain gardens, bioretention basins, and tree trenches, water that would flow through gutters onto the mall instead will be directed into a retention area underneath Plum Street, which will serve to provide water to the plantings there. So, and if you're curious what this looks like, it's on our website. Just pop in Plum Street as a query, and this will come up, and you can see what the preliminary design looks like. That preliminary design was then submitted for purposes of grants. We have received grant already. And Ms. Foreman, what is the amount of the grant that we've already received and from whom?
$250,000 from DCNR.
And this is $500,000 additional towards a projected $1.2 million project.
That is correct.
So this will get us much closer to the point where we can fully fund this project. So this is a good thing, but of course, simply because the state through the offices of our state representative and our state senator, was willing to offer us this grant award, we have to accept it. I move that we authorize acceptance of the 2021 RACP grant award with regard to Plum Street Park.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of authorizing the acceptance of the 2021 RACP grant award for the Plum Street Park, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And I apologize if I just hit folks with a deluge of information, but this is a project that we've been working on for years now. And I think it's something that's extremely important for our community for a number of different reasons. So to the extent that I hit you with a lot of detail, it was to emphasize the point that this is a big deal. Item number 4 on my agenda is authorizing the request for a 12-month extension on the termination date of another RACP grant. This is with regard to the work at the former 3rd Street Dam site. By way of some background, it was a number of years ago, 10 in fact, that the borough received a RACP grant from the state in the amount of $650,000. That grant was meant to cover the 20% share, the borough's 20% share of the cost for designing and constructing the 3rd Street Dam. The grant is limited, so periodically we have to reapply to the appropriate authorities and in order to get an extension on the grant. And that's what we're doing tonight. It's reapplying so that we can keep in place that $650,000. That $650,000, as we understand it, can be used in a flexible way with regard to the project at the former 3rd Street Dam. So I make a motion tonight that we authorize the request for a 12-month extension for that RACP grant.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of authorizing the request for 12-month extension on the termination date of the RACP grant, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And the third action item I have is similar to the previous two. This is another grant that the borough has received. It is from the Growing Greener grant that we received 3 years ago in the amount of $160,050. The grant was for infiltration tree pits and trenches along West Jefferson and bioretention basin bump outs at the intersection of South Avenue and West Jefferson. This will accomplish 2 broad goals. 1, it helps with the greening up of that area, and 2, it will provide a certain traffic calming effect as well. As with the RACP grant that we were just discussing, every now and then we have to request an extension, and we need to do so on this grant, partly because of the effects of COVID. Things just got slow for the past 2 years. So we'd like to move forward with this program. We're hopefully able to do it this year, but we'd like to keep this money in place. So I move that we authorize the request for a 12-month extension of the DEP Growing Greener grant with regard to West Jefferson Street.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of authorizing the request for a 12-month extension of the termination date of the Growing Greening grant, DEP Growing Greener grant, regards West Jefferson Street, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
That completes my report. Just emphasize something I said earlier on. Let's all work towards a mask-free day. So get yourselves vaccinated or boosted. All right, unless there are any questions for me, move along then to Councilman Kevin Boyer, Recreation and Board of Health.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a brief announcement regarding Board of Health. There was a town hall run by the county last Friday morning that a few of the members, including Lori, Devlin, and I attended. It was an information session, so I'll have some things to bring to council in our workshop meeting in January about the future Board of Health and the new county health office that's going to be up and running by then. As far as rec is concerned, we did have a successful winter wonderland on December the 5th. It was a little bit more low-key than usual, but Santa was there, and kids came and got to the picture taken with Santa, so that was nice. And thank you to Lisa Gelman and Suzanne Ernest for helping out, and they also recruited some members of my family to help, and we had a great time. Speaking of holiday, the decorating contest for the lights is actually ongoing right now. Judging will be up to the 18th, which I believe is a Saturday. You have to go to the website and register, but you can still do that. And once you're on the list, then rec members will go out and take a look at your house, and we'll make a decision after the 18th. Any-
House in Borough?
Sure, going for lights, sure. And I do have one legislative item, and that is to make a motion to appoint Suzanne Ernest to the rec board for a term expiring 12/31/24.
Second.
Motion's been made and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? I'll call the question then. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 2021-42, which will appoint Suzanne Ernest to the rec board for a term expiring December 31, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Does any member of council have any questions for Councilman Boyer at this time? Seeing that there are none, we'll move along to Finance and Library. Councilman Peter Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will try to make this brief. I think it will be brief. I won't try, it will be. As always, I'll start off by the ratification of November's bills. In November, we drew from the general fund $236,431.27. From the recreation fund, $2,942.16. And from the capital fund, $148,813.02. I move ratification for November's bills.
Second.
Motion has been made and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving payment of the borough's bills from the general recreation capital and capital funds as outlined by Councilman Williamson, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I'm actually, the way that I understand why I have the items in this list, but before I do number 2, I do want to give a little bit of background. This is the ordinance which sets the millage for next year's budget. And it's an unusual year in that it's going to change. It's actually changed 2 years in a row. Last year it changed because of the reassessment countywide. We had to adjust our millage from 3 mills down to 1.41 mills to regularize our taxes so that we wouldn't get more or less real estate tax than we had gotten before. This year, due to a variety of pressures on our budget, which I will get to later, we are needing to change our millage again, this time to 1.8 mills. And we actually have to have a separate resolution setting that millage. Solicitor Scott had prepared such, it's in your packet. And unless you have any questions, I'm going to move approval of ordinance number 1152, setting the millage at 1.8 mils for the 2022 tax year.
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? I'll ask Councilman Williamson. You mentioned some pressures on the budget this year. Could you please elaborate?
Yeah, I would. In a sense, I guess I would have to elaborate by talking about item number 4, but it's okay. A variety of things have happened. Basically, one of the more significant things is, as we've been talking about for years, the fire department is now going to require to actually staff instead of use volunteers during the day. And that's going to cause somewhat of an increase in cost. This is at the same time when all the other expenses for the borough are tightening. I will mention that for the first time in a number of years, this year's budget, both for the general operating expenses and for the capital expenses, are lower than they were last year, which is unusual, but they are what they are nonetheless, and that is why we have to raise the millage in order to balance budget.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for Councilman Williamson on this matter? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of adopting ordinance number 1152 of 2021, which will set the millage rate for this coming year at 1.8, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is, every year we engage professional auditors to make sure that our books are transparent and properly stated. We've been using Barbicane, Thornton & Company for a number of years now, several at least. We found them to be prompt, thorough, and they understand our books very well now. They have submitted a cost proposal which is in line with last year's costs. The Finance Committee is inclined to hire them, and we would like to make that in the form of a motion that we engage them via their cost proposal.
Second.
Motion has been made, it has been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing no call for discussion, all those in favor of approving the audit engagement letter from Barbicane Thornton & Company for the 2021 audit, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
My last item is the actual formal adoption of the 2022 budget. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the workshop 2 weeks ago when Brittany Foreman, our manager, presented at a special hearing the budget. But anybody paying attention knows that we've had a number of public hearings about this over time. It's been an extraordinarily interesting budget to put together, because since we are still in the midst of a pandemic and a number of things are changing in ways that we don't exactly know, but we have put together a conservative, solid budget that the Finance Committee feels very confident about. And I really have to thank, because I won't get a chance to work with her anymore, Councilwoman Johnson, for all your efforts on the Finance Committee through the years. You've been a steady, solid, rational person on this thing the whole time. It's been wonderful to have you. So anyway, with that, I move adoption of the 2022 budget. Oh, I'm sorry, do I have to move each one separately, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay, all four. The general capital, liquid fuels, and recreation fund.
Second.
Second.
Motion is made, and it has been seconded twice. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of adopting the final 2022 general capital, liquid fuels, and recreation fund budgets, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much for your support on all those motions, and that concludes my report.
Does any member of council have any questions or comments for Councilman Williamson at this time?
Peter, the fire company, particularly the chief, wanted to thank finance and all of our council. That's something that they did not want to do, but in order to protect and best serve the community is something that we all recognize we had to do. Starting to look around, we're not we're not brand new at this. I mean, there's many other municipalities in Delaware County that already have paid fire. You get out to Chester County, Montgomery County, I'm going to say the majority of significant or larger municipalities already have paid fire. Scary to say, some of them I've been speaking with have now up to 15 paid firefighters. So it is the direction, sad to say, that we're going. Volunteerism is something I think is in the past. We can't find parents to volunteer to coach little league and basketball. We're not going to find somebody to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning when it's 10 degrees outside to go fight a fire. So the fire company truly appreciates that, and I think it's in the best interest of safety of the borough.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions for Councilman Williamson at this time? We'll move along then. Personnel, Public Relations, and Historical Archives, Councilman Sarah Dixon.
So I have to share, I don't have to, but I choose to share something that happened today. So a lot of you know that I work at a center for older adults, and here I am today with a couple of groups, and one of our members who I had not seen in almost 2 years was in, and he says, Sarah, I was in media very recently. It's beautiful. He said, oh, you guys are just beautiful, beautiful. Just thought I would share the fact that seniors think that media is beautiful. Okay, for let us what it is. I have one thing for you to consider today, and that's the change status of Karen Tux's-Luck from part-time grants administrator to full-time grants administrator project manager, effective January 2022. With the terms of employment to be negotiated by the manager, consistent with the Personnel Committee's direction. Do I need to say that again?
No.
I don't think
Oh,
so.
good, thank you. That's a form of a motion.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
There is a second on the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I just want to say that it's my intent to vote no tonight. It has nothing to do with the individual. The individual's outstanding. It has to do with the process or lack thereof.
Okay. So now,
Well, there's a motion that's been made, and it has been seconded. There has been some
all in
discussion.
favor?
That's absolutely right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1.
That's all I need to take care of today.
I believe so. Does anyone have any questions? Anyone in council have any questions for Sarah at this time? Seeing that there are none, we do have the opportunity for public comment and privilege of the floor, our second bite at that apple, after which I'll remind folks that we'll have an opportunity to say a few words to our departing members of council. But first things first. Karen Rapino, have we received any requests or comments by way of email? Okay. Is there anybody present who wishes to address council at this time? Please come to the microphone, tell us your name, where you live, what's on your mind.
It's the same clause.
No takers. Well, then, I guess, Mr. Mayor, you and I are going to have to go over to the microphone. You can tell we rehearsed as well. Actually, a lot of this has to do with, we have not looking forward to this motion, to this moment. We've not. Lisa, Amy, Sarah, why don't you come on up? The mayor's not going to walk on down and hand you your iPads.
I'm all comfy, and this is my comfy seat here.
As you can see, we all have some prepared notes, I believe, many of us do. I'd like to remark on what is an unusual occurrence. This is the first time in 8 years that we have had members of council who are stepping off of council. It's a bittersweet moment. It's bitter because we're going to miss our colleagues. We really are. Every now and then you'll see us and we get into a heated discussion. But that's just us doing our jobs. We are, I think, over the course of years, we have developed into a very well-oiled team. We've worked well together. We welcome each other's experiences and each other's viewpoints. But it's also a sweet moment in this sense. We will continue to enjoy the fruits of their efforts. They might be stepping off of council, but the things they have accomplished over these past 8 years, 24 years collectively, a quarter of a century if you want to really feel old. The things that they have done, they'll continue on, and we as members of council and we as residents are going to enjoy the fruits of their labors into the future. I'll just pick out a few. Sarah. Sarah doesn't make a big hullabaloo about this, but she was a guiding force behind moving our historical archives from an unsecure room where things tended to disappear to a beautiful space in the new library where we can store our civic treasures in a well-heated, well-lighted, well-regulated place without fear of them slowly being eroded by dampness or water damage, or of getting legs and walking away. That required an enormous sustained effort. And that was Sarah. She was the one that really pushed that along. So next time you're at the library, you visit the Historic Archive, and you're looking at one of those lovely books or looking through those pictures, remember, there were people behind that who made that happen. And one of them is Sarah Dixon. Lisa has, as Peter Williamson has pointed out, she has been a steady influence both on public safety as well as on finance. Those are not easy tasks, folks. Public safety is often a flashpoint for issues ranging from what about a stop sign to, my goodness, do we have enough officers on the street? And finance, if you've been following us for the past half year, you know the type of sustained effort that takes in order to pull our budget into shape. But I'm going to single out one thing for Lisa, and this is something that we're just beginning to see. In fact, we saw a little bit of it tonight with the West Jefferson grant that has a traffic calming feature. Lisa has taken it upon herself to move the Public Safety Committee in the direction of having a more formal approach to the traffic problems that we routinely face in the borough. And we now have a traffic calming plan. And that plan will be instituted over the next coming years. And we're hopeful that we're going to see some very good progress from that, so that folks in our neighborhoods will see that traffic is better regulated, traffic is calmed down a bit. That was almost a thankless task, but Lisa took it on. Thank you. And Amy Johnson has also been a steady and strong advocate of green initiatives in the borough. I'm going to pick out one. I'm going to pick it out because yesterday I pulled in my yellow bucket. And if you haven't, you've got to get a bucket, or at least listen to the video. These things just didn't appear magically. A borough-wide compost program took years for us to bring to a reality. And it was Amy that helped bring it to reality. She was really the guiding force behind them. And we kind of take things like this for granted in the borough. In a way, we're kind of spoiled. Hallelujah chorus back there. But we routinely get calls from communities around us and from elsewhere in the state and even outside the state. How did you make that thing happen? And we just direct them over to Amy, and we'll continue to direct them over to Amy. So, as I said, this is a bittersweet moment. We expect that we'll see Lisa, Amy, and Sarah back here at various times. We will welcome them. We look forward to those meetings. But for now, we like to mark the occasion of your departure with some plaques. Mr. Mayor,
I'm holding on.
you're just holding them.
Go ahead. Seriously.
Sarah? Amy?
Maybe the mayor could read one of them.
Lisa?
They get the box too.
The three flags, of course, are the same, but they're different. They have different names on them, of course. But I think that it would be appropriate for the mayor to read to all of us what the plaques say.
Okay, so I'm going to read yours, Lisa. And, in recognition of your dedication and commitment to the Borough Media, Lisa Johnson, 8 years of service, Media Borough Council, said it all for each, December 2021. Great job to each of you. You all deserve it. And maybe you'll be back someday. And I'm still going to give Lisa, Sarah a ride home too. The last time.
Oh, don't go away.
Sorry.
Smile. Smile. You can see it behind your
Have my
head. In your
mask
eyes. You can see it in your eyes. No, I'm just saying you smile. You can see it in your eyes if you're smiling or not. There we go.
We are, of course, excited by being joined next month by 3 new members of council, 2 of whom are with us this evening. But tonight is about Lisa, Amy, and Sarah. Lisa, Amy, Sarah, do you have any words that you'd like to share with us? You don't have to come to the microphone. We can go sit down if that's more comfortable. Okay, we're all
I
sitting
can do
down.
that. It's been a terrific group of people to work with. We don't always agree, but we are respectful of each other, and I love that. I love the fact that even though we haven't had a workshop where the elephant is in the room and someone has the trunk and someone has the back, and we're all talking about the elephant, but we're all describing different parts. And so our stories are all true, it's just different. And so we're very accepting of that, I think. This council is really wonderful. So good luck. I'll be back in. You'll be glad to see me.
And I'll give you a ride. I'll give you a ride.
Yes.
I'll just say a few words. This definitely is a bittersweet moment for me. I am so grateful for this experience, and it's been an honor working with each and every one of you. I've learned a lot about myself, as well as the many facets of local government, and it's been an amazing opportunity and given me a new perspective of this town. I don't think I'll ever look at media the same way I did before I started this position. There is so much work that takes place in running a town, and yeah, I'm really appreciative of the hardworking, passionate, dedicated people in this room, and the many staff members that are not here today in this room, and also the efforts of the countless volunteers of this town. It definitely takes a village, and I'm proud to be a part of this village that we call media. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with all of my free time. I definitely have plans on doing volunteer work for the town, not quite sure yet. I have some ideas up my sleeve, but it's definitely going to be weird not knowing what's going on. I'm going to have to make a concerted effort to stay informed. Luckily, we have a great newsletter. I happen to live next door to the borough president, and maybe I'll show up to a few meetings. So, yeah, I definitely don't plan on being a stranger, and I look forward to seeing you all in the new year. Thank you.
Well, I wrote it down, so I wouldn't forget to thank the people I'd like to thank. So I will read this to you. First, I'd like to say that I'm very proud to be part of our great town. And I've enjoyed working with many people over the last 8 years, contributing to making this a better place to live, work, and visit. I want to thank each person with whom I've worked, including our borough manager, Brittany Foreman, and the borough staff, including Karen Rapino and Dave Ciccone, and Karen Tausig-Lux, as well as Bob Scott, our solicitor, Kevin Madsen, our engineer, Brian Tausig-Lux, our treasurer, and Katie McVeary, our tax collector. And I want to say thank you to the members of the groups I worked with, the Finance Committee, including Blaine Jordan and Jim Seaman, HARB, the Civil Service Commission, the Media Historical Society, Media Business Authority, and the Public Safety Committee. And I especially want to thank Chief Ed Gibson and our fire department, Chief Marty Wasinich and our police department, and our mayor, Bob McMahon, who work relentlessly to keep us safe. I'm proud to know these individuals and thankful that they are here protecting each of us. I'd also like to thank each of my fellow council members, Sarah, and Peter, and Kevin, and Brian, and Amy, for making these last 8 years sometimes challenging, sometimes rewarding, and always thought-provoking. But most importantly, I want to thank the volunteers and residents who contributed their time and ideas to the many issues the town has addressed. I learned the most from our residents, mostly good and always valuable. I wish the next council much success and encourage each council member to keep an open mind, listen carefully, and assume the best in everyone. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I'll see you around town.
Do we get a chance to say nice things now, Mr. President?
Absolutely.
Y'all have said an awful lot of nice things already, so I'll be brief. One thing that I think all three of you share, three things. First of all, you all have very strong opinions, which is a very, very good thing. Because as a person trying to move things forward, you know, I can hear in my head your voices, and it would always improve everything I was trying to advance, because I would already have the benefit of knowing, well, Sarah's not going to like this part of it, so I better, you know, change it around. So I think that's really good. The other thing is that I think you all came with the intention to do something. You wanted to change something. You didn't just want to sit around, and I think that's really good. And the last thing, which I think cannot be underestimated because I've experienced it the other way, is all three of you are scrupulously honest in everything you do. We always know what, when you say something, is what you truly believe. And that's been wonderful. And I would say that of everybody here, but you guys are leaving, so I'll say you three. That's all.
Well, I think Brian said it best when he gave you guys and the rest of us credit for just being a well-oiled machine. And I have always respected that. You hear horror stories about other councils just clashing and not getting along. And again, we've certainly had our moments. I remember those meetings way back when they went on for hours. I never went home, but we got through it and we respect each other. And I think, especially you guys, with your help, we've done a lot of great things. And I can't thank you enough for being wonderful colleagues over the last 8 years. So I wish you all as well.
What would your video go?
No, I've had my shot.
Okay. What Peter references that you came into work is truly an understatement. I've been sitting here for a long time. I started to play around and count numbers. I think I've sat now with 19 different council members, even from Republicans have served with me. You all came here with the desire to work, be committed to your community, and I think that is fantastic. What I gained out of this in the last 8 years, I've had the opportunity to get 3 new friends. Sometimes we may not think of ourselves as friends, but I do. Because good friends are honest with each other, good friends can fight with each other, and then say they're sorry at the end of the day. The one thing which I do want to do is to thank your families, because that is the group that has to recognize that when you're at caucus meetings, you're at council meetings, you're on the telephone, and you're at committee meetings, you have to miss time with your family. I'm sure you've missed birthdays, you've missed holidays, things of that nature, to serve your community. We talked about volunteerism just a minute ago with regards to firefighters. It's harder to find people such as you who are willing to put their personal life aside to serve their community. And I really want to thank you, and I feel honored and privileged to be sitting with you for the past 8 years. And wishing you all a fantastic, happy, joyous holiday.
Thank you.
Well, before you vote on your last motion as council members, at least as part of this council, I'll just say this. We'll miss you. We will miss you. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay.
Happy holidays,
The
everybody.
motion is unanimous. We are adjourned. Good night, folks. Have a pleasant holiday.